Hey, what's up, all you outsiders out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another Young Justice Outsiders episode review. This time it's Season three's Episode 20, titled Quiet Conversations. A very apropos title, as I always say with these things. That's my go-to thing to say with this stuff. Apropos title, because every title really ties directly in with the plot of the series. Well, let's get into it proper. So, on New Year's Day, Victor Stone receives a call from his father, not wanting to be apart from his son, constantly. But, Victor isn't having any of it. He just wants his dad to just give him space. He just can't forgive his dad for what was done to him. And he doesn't feel like his dad is still not respecting his boundaries. He continues to just go the opposite of the direction that Victor wants. Unfortunately, once he finishes this call, he starts to be affected by the father box within him. And he actually ends up going missing until the next day, when Fred actually manages to find him and brings him back home. And Victor says that the father box's influence, the new Genesis technology, is to continuing to spread throughout his body. So that was a good major plot line in terms of during the New 52 with Cyborg, and even during I think it was Rebirth, a little bit into the Rebirth era of DC, where his cybernetics were just starting to spread throughout his body almost uncontrollably in a parasitic manner. And Helga Jace notes that, if this continues to spread further, it might just consume him altogether. So Superboy brings in Dreamer, who, runs a scan on Cyborg to just diagnose him, but ultimately she finds that the only person who would possibly have a chance of rescuing Cyborg is Metron. Specifically, the new god Metron's, well, New God's kind of shaky. He's an impartial in terms of the war between New Genesis and Apocalypse. He's kind of like the Watcher from Marvel Comics. He observes, but tends to not want to interact. But the thing that could actually end up saving Cyborg's life is in fact the Mobius chair, the chair on which Metron sits, that provides him with a wealth of knowledge, which is a chair. I don't know if it was in terms of pre-New 52, but I know post-New 52, it was a chair created by the Anti-Monitor. So big plot points there. I wonder if the Anti-Monitor will come into play, especially since the Anti-Monitor was actually featured in the Green Lantern animated series, and anyone who actually watched that series also saw it running in conjunction with Young Justice. So interesting things just kind of lining up for the most part. But there's big other problems as well, as Tara and Fred had found the letter that Violet was writing last episode, specifically one that just states that she's basically run away and she doesn't wish to be found, with Tara, specifically, interestingly, being the one to note that when Violet finally told them that Gabrielle Dow accepted a bribe to let in the assassins who killed the Markovian king and queen, Brion and Tara didn't take it well, which was understandable, but they kind of turned from her and they turned their back on her. And, while Brion feels bad about it, Tara very noticeably feels bad about the whole situation in a very interesting manner. And while Dr. Jace does want to go and find Violet, Artemis specifically wants to go. And Fred and Brion stay behind while Terra actually wants to go along with Artemis. Meanwhile, Beautiful Dreamer notes that she will be unable to assist Superboy and his friends in, finding Metron, and she simply has to leave her mother box with the team since last time the Forever People met up with Metron, Bear punched Metron in the face, so they don't think they'd be of much help in getting Metron to help them out. So it ends up falling on Superboy, Black Lightning, and Forager to go off with the Mother Box and try to find Metron. A search that actually leads them, of all places, to the Source Wall. Now, an explanation for the Source Wall. The Source Wall is this massive enclosure on the entirety of the universe, and it expands as this current universe continues to grow. But every being that is trapped within the Source Wall is actually a holdover from the previous universe. So each universe has its own Big Bang, and the Source Wall expands beyond that. And if anyone touches the Source Wall, they actually end up merging with the Source Wall. So, it's a fairly dangerous place. Although, in this continuity, that seems not to be the case, as, Superboy, Black Lightning, and Forager do not become affixed to the Source Wall. And the way Forager describes it later on is that it's mainly an enclosure that contains all these various gods of old for the most part. Very fascinating stuff. We then cut to Happy Harbor, where we actually see Megan Moore's talking things over with Harper Row, and specifically in the fact that Violet has gone missing. She wonders if maybe Harper knows something, Harper does not, and she actually does display some worry for what if Violet is alright. But, after noticing a bruise on Harper, Harper kind of underplays it. And, we kind of segue into this fact that McGann knows something's up in terms of Harper, her brother Cullen, and their abusive father. On the other side of things, Artemis and Terra actually end up going to Sphere, who they feel would be their best chance at actually locating Violet, as she is the embodiment of a mother box soul within her. So they feel that their best option is to get Sphere to actually lead them to her, which is good thinking on their part. But we actually find out exactly where Violet went, specifically Dunbar, and I think it's Markovia or it's in Karak, one of those places. Just very rundown place. I feel like it's in Karak, mostly because of how poorly it looks, but then you hear, Violet's mother mention that, how Markovia treats them. So Violet has actually gone to seek out Gabrielle Dow's mother, specifically Miriam Dow. So Violet has gone to seek out Gabrielle Dow's mother. Meanwhile, at Star Labs, we actually see that Aqualad has been trying his best to talk things over with the character I know for a fact is Dolphin. And, knowing a little bit of information of episodes that have already aired at this point, it's Dolphin. So I'm just going to call her Dolphin. So there. They haven't been able to communicate with her because, they don't have the technology that allows them to be able to communicate, through Otter with her, especially considering she's Hindu, so she's speaking in another language on top of everything. But, Aqualad uses the Zeta Tube into Atlantis in order to bring Dolphin in, and uses his translation magic to allow her to speak Atlantean as well. Something that really overjoys Dolphin in the process. Meanwhile, we see that Silas Stone has actually come to Victor to see how he's doing with everything that's going on. Unfortunately, his presence exacerbates Victor's condition and causes the father box technology to spread throughout him, unchecked, which, Dreamer had actually suggested against Victor, having any kind of really volatile stimulants, and his dad is very much one of those volatile stimulants. Meanwhile, the chase for Metron proceeds as Forager, Superboy, and Black Lightning spot Metron, escaping through a boom tube, and so they follow him, trying to get to where he's gone, and we actually find out it's on this alien world where these parademons are battling none other than Superman. Interestingly enough, of all places they could end up. Meanwhile, Cyborg is really not happy to see his dad here, but his dad does convince him to undergo being put into a comatose state. That way, his emotional reactions won't cause the father box and the apocalyptic technology to spread any further. But Superman actually is surprised to find his little brother, as he puts it. It's good to find out that's the nature of their relationship. I kind of always wondered what the best course of action for their relationship would actually be, but brothers, like a bigger, older brother who's a man and a younger brother, I like that comparison in terms of their relationship. So it's a very sweet relationship, very nice, but Superman lets the team know that, hey, I'm out here because of the fact that Granny Goodness and the female Furies have been raiding these various mining outposts, and they managed to once again get the mineral and get out, leaving Superman and his team to do nothing but fight off parademons. But he says, oh, we'll just get him next time. But Metron comes in and says, yeah, there might not be a next time, considering that this was the final element that Granny Goodness and Desaad needed in order to complete their device, which is very bad news considering what the previous device we saw was capable of doing. That thing was a terror to anyone and everything. So this is really bad news that really should have been taken a lot more serious than it is in this episode, but Connor and his group had their own thing going, so they don't think too much. But, Superman really should get on this, but, this is put on pause as Connor does in fact ask Clark to be his best man for his wedding, which really takes Clark off guard, but, he agrees before he even realizes what Connor said for the most part. But Black Lightning gets to the crux of things and says, hey Metron, we have a friend who has been bonded to a father box and is dying. We need your help. This intrigues Metron, who agrees to go and see their friend, and they all go racing through the boom tube, with Superman just being really perplexed by all the weird stuff that just kind of happens around Connor for the most part. But we then pick back up with Harper as well as McGann, who are still talking things over. McGann is still trying her best to get Harper to actually talk about the situation at home, why Harper has bruises, and why this time around Cullen also has bruising. We then pick up with Violet with the Dow family, with Gabrielle's cousin, having been really shocked because Gabrielle, as they perceive it, Gabrielle has told them that she is sick and that she is dying, and they think of, we can try to get you help. We understand that might not be a best option since only the wealthy can really, receive that kind of help, but Violet lets them know that she has been to the best of the best, and she is simply here to say goodbye. Meanwhile, in Atlantis, Aquaman has brought Dolphin to see King Arthur Curry, who, as the ruling active leader of Atlantis forever and for always, and he has accepted Dolphin into Atlantis in order to give her the help that she so desperately needs. But when Dolphin actually inquires as to why Arthur passed down the role of Aquaman to Calder, Arthur makes it clear that he had always wanted Calder to be the next Aquaman. He was the chosen successor, and he feels that with everything that has gone on in the actual world, the whole "we are all outsiders" hashtag has made its way all the way to the depths of Atlantis, and which makes sense with the saving of their, delegate, Garth. Everything has just kind of, trickled down to their level as well. And he feels so proud that the team that Calder originally led and trained is doing so much good for the world. But this makes, this kind of shows on Calder's face the discomfort from this, and Dolphin picks up on it. I think Dolphin in the comics had a bit of an empathic ability to sense when others were in distress, although I don't fully remember that to the best of my knowledge. And I'm trying to, keep this going along, but we also have Helga Jace talking things over with her mentor. It's been made very clear that they still haven't made much progress in finding a cure for Violet, and without her there, they definitely won't make any forward progress. But Helga Jace also takes a moment to talk things over with Brion and to lift his spirits a bit by saying that, hey, despite everything that has happened with Violet and your discovery of what she did as Gabrielle Dow, take solace in how much you've helped the world, how much you've changed the world, all the good you've done for the people, as well as for the name of the Markovian people, because the whole Outsiders activity has actually brought a lot of pride to Markovia and the person that you are. Something that, Brion actually kind of takes to heart for a little bit. But, once Metron actually gets to the dwellings of the Outsiders and they actually ask him for help, we come to find out that Metron didn't come to actually offer any assistance. No, he has actually come here to watch Victor die, as he finds it'll be most fascinating and a learning experience. But, Black Lightning exposits that, well, we don't really need Metron himself, we need the Mobius chair. And so Black Lightning subdues Metron so that the others can get Victor to the Mobius chair. We also have Dolphin introduced to Calderon's parents. His mother, who in the comics was a native of Zebel, the same place that Mera, the original Aquaman, Arthur Curry's wife, Mera, is from. That hidden off land. And if you saw the Aquaman movie, yeah, she's from that part of the world. Within the Bermuda Triangle and all that. We also are introduced to Kaldum Durham, who was, Aquaman's kind of adoptive father, stepfather, I guess you could say, a former member of Black Manta's, crew and his team and all that, and also the person whose name inspired the Aqualad himself, because originally in the comics, when he was introduced there, because, Calderon was actually introduced for Young Justice itself, his name was taken from Carl Durham, and in the comics they made his true name, well, his birth name, whatever, well, his kind of worked around name, Jackson Hyde. So, it's interesting to have it so that, he was raised by not just his mother, but his namesake as well. Nice little Easter eggs. This team always does such great work when it comes to working in various characters that, should have connections with these characters in the comics, but curiously don't. They just make connections that make sense, and it's always a great time. But when they're alone, Dolphin talks things over with, Calder, and she lets him know that she sensed that he was lying to Arthur, but she tries to make it so that he feels somewhat at ease because he feels bad about lying to his king. He feels bad about lying to anyone, and she lets him know that he is still a good person because she's known evil men up on the surface, and evil men are people who feel do not feel bad for telling lies, who don't feel anything at all for doing terrible things. But he does. He feels that he did a bad thing by lying to his king, and that shows that he's made of better stuff than most people. Meanwhile, Harper slowly starts to open up about the gun, which she, makes known that she got out of the house because, her father's a drunk, and, drunkenness and alcoholism do not go together. And, Megan's just like, yes, much like you and Violet were doing on the beach. And when, Harper gets ready to leave, Megan lets her know that, look, we understand that you don't want to put you and your brother in a situation where you could be separated, where you can no longer protect him. But the situation that you are currently in, the person that you are currently living with, that's not a good situation to be in. You owe it to yourself and your brother to do what's necessary to get out of that place and make do with something that will hopefully be better. And especially when Megan lets Harper know that she will be there for him, Harper opens up and admits to the fact that their father is beating them. He's being abusive, he's a drunk, he's no good, and he is destroying his children, slowly but surely. Usually he would beat Harper, but he started beating on Cullen too, so, it was a steady foundation that Harper was on. She thought that she would be able to survive the beatings no matter what, but now he's taking it out on Cullen as well, and that's no good. That was a thing in the comics as well, but Cullen was always kind of getting beat on, especially when he was older, and because he was gay in the comics as well, so bullies would beat on him too, and Harper would step in to try to help him out. But they did their best in order to escape from their shitty father, but it always seemed like they never really escaped from the shitty situations that always seemed to be attracted to them. We also have Violet finally fess up to the fact that, the true Gabrielle Dow is dead. She is no longer there. And she lets them know just so that, because she's tired of lying. She's tired of never telling people the truth and hiding secrets. She understands how damaging just hiding things can be. And as the team managed to work Victor into the Mobius chair, Superboy asked the Mother Box to activate the Mobius chair to remove the Father Box's influence. And it does just that, and it purges the Father Box's influence from Victor's symptoms and absorbs the spirit of the Father Box. And, Forager even notes that must be a very similar process as to how Violet obtained the Mother Box technology within her as well. And while Metron is kind of peeved that he didn't get to actually see what he originally wanted to, as he feels that this is a waste of a good experiment, Black Lightning notes that he heard something from Metron, who stated that, when they were back on that Outer Rim place with Superman, Metron noted that Granny Goodness had obtained something, and he questions, is Granny Goodness the same Granny Goodness as our Granny Goodness, Gretchen Good? And Metron cryptically says, yes and no, which raises a lot of questions, like, How is it yes and no? That's odd. Huh. It felt a lot more clear cut than that, but that raises a lot of questions for me now. But Victor is finally back on his feet, and while Silas gets ready to leave, Victor is very thankful for the help that, his father provided by just being there when Victor really needed it. For probably the first time, but it was good to actually have it. And while Gabrielle Dow's cousin is, calling Violet a demon, get out of my cousin's body, and screaming and yelling at her. Gabrielle Dow's mother is, if nothing else, thankful to just know she lost her husband, and she now knows that she lost her daughter as well. But she has at least received closure. She got to know what happened. She didn't just sit around wondering. She knows now, and she is thankful to Violet for at least bringing her that, for at least caring enough to come and see her and to do this, despite how much it would hurt her. So it really does show the strength of Violet's character in this moment. And so she, as Gabrielle Dow's mother wishes Violet the best in her own life, she's met up with Tara and Artemis, with Tara showing a little bit of emotion here. It's Tara's starting to really show something here that I'll talk about later. And McGann also takes both Harper and Cullen away from their very unfortunate situation. This is something I'll also talk about later. We also get to see that now Dolphin is actually enjoying her time under the sea. She gets to be more free than she ever got to be on the surface world. And she's embracing this new life she's been given. And we also get to see something very interesting, that Calderon also has someone he can turn to, namely the warrior, Wading, and this was actually something that wasn't prominently introduced at first. It's hard to say if Calder's kind of bisexual or straight out gay, but in the he was created for this series. So what Greg Wiseman and Brendan Vitti say, is the bottom line for this character. But when Jackson Hyde, Aqualad, was introduced pre-New 52, he had a girlfriend. But after the New 52, once he started to look a little bit more like his original template, his original character, he was put forward as gay. And we're also seeing here that, in this series, he is also gay. But we did have that moment where Rocket did kiss him, so and he had kind of a reaction to that, but it was kind of hard to see if he enjoyed it or not. So he might be bisexual, he might be full on gay, but it's nice to know that he actually does have someone out there who he's makes him happy for the most part. Very interesting stuff. And we also have this nice moment where Forager and Superboy are just happy that Victor Stone is okay. Black Lightning's still banging Helga Jace, just putting that out there, especially considering some other stuff later down the line. And Helga Jace is also happy when Artemis and Tara are able to bring Violet home. And in terms of Brion and Violet, it's something they're really going to have to work out on their own time. But towards the end of this episode, finally, we have Tara reporting into Slade. And she kind of plays things off like, there's nothing really to a report. Nothing's really happened. Everything's been kind of dull for the most part. And she, lets him know that once she has something, she'll report back into him. And we see this episode end with Tara giving the most genuine smile we've gotten from her for in a long time. Tara seems to be genuinely happy where she is right now. She has a family, and I don't think she's willing to let this go anytime soon. This episode ends with a bumper for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, something that really you should take seriously. Really take to note that if you have anyone in your life, or if you are someone who is suffering from some form of domestic violence or abuse, or you're a survivor of such, go to the hotline or go to the phone number. Hit them up. Just talk to someone. You never know how much just talking to someone can really help you along in your life. Honestly, there are so many people who will feel trapped in a situation like this, in a relationship like this that is abusive. Had to stop that music for a second. Really kind of put the house lights down. You should never feel trapped in a bad relationship. You should reach out. Do your best to get out of there, because your abuser will do whatever they have to, whatever they can, to make you feel like you have no other options. That your only solution is just to continue to stay in this bad situation. And a lot of times when that happens, it leads into death. Get out of there. Do whatever you need to in order to escape. Look for help. Seek help. Because there are so many people who wouldn't stand for this if they knew, who wouldn't be okay with what you are going through, or what someone you know is going through. Do not let that situation persist. Fight it wherever you can, and just get out of there. Find a better life. Find something better, because you deserve better. No one deserves to be abused. No one. And thus ends our episode. Nice little shot of Sphere in the hideout. There's also some background sounds, what sounds like Helga Jace and Black Lightning kind of messing around almost in a drunken stupor. So that's a thing. Like, they are straight up just fucking. They fucking. But a great episode. Fun time, lots of emotion, and a lot of quiet conversations between Victor and Silas, finally kind of trying to move forward with their relationships. Victor going missing in the previous episode, we got to see that he was passed out during all of that. Tara talking to Artemis about how she feels bad for, just not really reacting well to the situation with Gabrielle, and the fact that she just kind of dismissed Slade to a certain extent, which is something you never really would have expected. Harper Row talking things over with Megan, opening up about her experiences and how she really cares about her brother and the inescapable situation she was in with her father. I'm glad that they brought in this character, if only for this, because it's a story to tell. It's a story that, people should be made aware of the volatile situations people could be in, and know that, hey, step in, do what you can to help these people out. We also had the conversation between Helga, Jace, and her mentor, which I've already heard some rumors as to who that is. I've gotten a few spoilers, and it's just like, if that's the case, then we'll talk about that later. Connor asking Superman to be his best man, which is so sweet. That's so adorable. Oh, man. And we also have, Metron talking with Connor, and Violet talking with Gabrielle's parents, her mother, Gabrielle's mother, Madia, and her cousin, Samad, who, talking about the terminal illness that Violet has, the cell degeneration. Orm talking things about how he passed things over to Calder, which is nice. You don't see enough passing of the torches and stuff like this. You know, we've started to kind of get like two of certain characters, but certain characters earned that rise to the mantle for the most part. And it's nice to really get Calderum, receiving that accolades from Orin. I still call him Arthur Curry though. Like, come on, it's Arthur Curry, people. And Calvin Durham talking about his past and how he from what did he say he was from San Francisco or something, and man, and it's just really good stuff. Just talk things out, people. Just talk things out. Nothing was made better by just keeping things to yourself and slowly having things eat you away from the inside out. But this video has gone on long enough. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below. Tell me anything you felt towards this episode in the comments as well. Just letting me know if you liked this episode, didn't like this episode, how did you feel about the plot, Metron, the Source War, Harper, Violet, all these things just happening all at once and just managing to squeeze within a short amount of time. I swear, it squeezed into, there was so much packed into this episode, I had to take like an episode and then some to explain what was actually in it. I love the lore that is brought into these series, into these episodes. It's fantastic. But subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another Young Justice episode or review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere for better or for worse. And until the next video, hey, hit me up. Let's have a quiet conversation about anything you like, especially if it comes to Young Justice and the DC universe at large. Until next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I think it's time for bed. Bye-bye.